Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon and watched the stars shift as his ship dropped out of hyperspace. He had been looking forward to this moment for 3 months. Today he would finally see his sister Amy again, along with her husband and 2 young children. They lived on New Haven, a peaceful farming colony that supplied food to dozens of human worlds. "Sir, we should be seeing the planet any moment now," said Lieutenant Ben Carter from his station. The young officer sounded excited. This was his first visit to an outer colony world. Jake smiled and moved closer to the main viewing screen. New Haven was supposed to be beautiful this time of year. Amy had sent him pictures of golden wheat fields stretching to the horizon and her children playing in meadows filled with colorful flowers. The colony had grown to over 200,000 people in just 10 years. It was one of humanity's greatest success stories. "Something's wrong, sir," said Captain Danny Rodriguez, the ship's commanding officer. His voice was tight with worry. "I'm not picking up any signals from the colony, no radio traffic, no navigation beacons, nothing." Jake felt a cold knot form in his stomach. Every human colony constantly broadcast identification signals and traffic control information. The silence was not normal. "Maybe their communications array is down for maintenance," suggested Carter, but even he sounded uncertain. The main screen flickered to life, showing the space where New Haven should be orbiting its yellow sun. Jake stared at the image for several seconds before his mind could accept what he was seeing. Where the planet should have been, there was only empty space filled with chunks of rock and metal debris. "Dear God," whispered Rodriguez. "The planet is gone." Jake's legs felt weak. He grabbed the back of a chair to steady himself. "That can't be right. Run a full sensor sweep, check our navigation. We must be in the wrong system." Dr. Lisa Carter, the ship's science officer, worked frantically at her console. She was a small woman with gray hair who had spent 20 years studying alien species. "Navigation is correct, Commander. We are definitely in the Kepler 442 system. But the planet is not just gone. It has been completely destroyed." The bridge fell silent except for the quiet hum of the ship's engines. Jake forced himself to think like an officer instead of a worried brother. What could do this? A natural disaster? An asteroid impact? "No, sir," replied Dr. Carter, her voice shaking slightly. "The debris field shows signs of artificial destruction. I'm detecting residual energy signatures that don't match any natural phenomenon. This was an attack." Rodriguez ordered the ship to move closer to the debris field. As they approached, the full scale of the destruction became clear. Pieces of buildings, vehicles, and orbital stations drifted in space like a graveyard. Jake saw part of what looked like a school playground, twisted metal that might have been from the colony's main hospital. "Sir, I'm picking up a faint signal," announced the communications officer. "It's coming from what's left of the orbital defense station." "Put it on screen," ordered Rodriguez. The image that appeared made everyone on the bridge gasp. The defense station was a broken shell, barely holding together, but its emergency systems were still functioning, and its recording devices had captured everything. "I'm accessing the station's databanks now," said Carter. "The recordings show what happened here." The main screen changed to show New Haven as it had been just days before. Jake could see the planet's blue oceans and green continents. Small, ships moved between the planet and its orbital facilities. Everything looked peaceful and normal. Then the alien ships appeared. They came out of hyperspace in a massive fleet. Jake counted over 50 vessels, each one larger than the biggest human warship. Their design was unlike anything in the human databases. The ships were long and narrow with curved hulls that gleamed like black metal. "Zephyrian Collective," whispered Dr. Carter. "I recognize those ship designs from intelligence reports." Jake had heard of the Zephyrian Collective. They were an aggressive alien species that had been expanding their territory for decades. But their space was hundreds of light years away from human colonies. What were they doing here? The recording continued. The alien fleet surrounded New Haven without any warning or communication. The planet's small defense force launched their ships to intercept, but they were hopelessly outnumbered. Jake watched in horror as alien weapons tore through the human vessels like they were made of paper. Then the aliens began bombing the planet. Their weapons were beyond anything humans had ever seen. Beams of pure energy struck the surface and created explosions that could be seen from space. Cities vanished in moments. The beautiful farmlands that Amy had shown him in pictures burned under alien fire. Jake saw people trying to evacuate in civilian ships. The aliens destroyed them all. Men, women, children, elderly people. None were spared. The attack was not just military. It was the complete extermination of every human being on New Haven. The final part of the recording showed the planet's destruction. The aliens used some kind of weapon that shattered the entire world. Jake watched his sister's home break apart and scatter into space. In less than 6 hours, 200,000 human beings and their entire civilization had been wiped out. The recording ended, a message appeared on the screen. It was from the aliens, broadcast in broken human language. Humans expand too far. This is warning. Leave our space or face same fate. Rodriguez slowly turned to face Jake. Commander, I'm sorry. There are no survivors. Jake stared at the debris field where his sister and her family had died. Amy had been only 35 years old. Her children were 7 and 9. They had never hurt anyone. They were farmers, not soldiers. Sir, said Carter quietly. New Haven was not in disputed territory. This colony was established in legally claimed human space. We followed all the proper diplomatic procedures. Jake nodded slowly. The Zephyrians had not attacked because humans had invaded their territory. They had attacked because they wanted to expand their own territory and saw humans as obstacles to remove. Send a priority message to Earth Defense Command, Jake ordered. Include all sensor data and the recording from the defense station. Tell them that an entire human colony has been destroyed without provocation. Yes, sir, replied the communications officer. The quantum relay will have our message to Earth in 4 hours. Jake looked one more time at the ruins of New Haven. Somewhere in that debris field were the remains of his sister's house, her children's toys, her husband's workshop, all of it reduced to floating scrap metal and rock. Sir, what are your orders? Asked Rodriguez. Jake straightened his uniform and took a deep breath. He was a military officer and he had duties to perform. But he was also a human being who had just watched the murder of his family and 200,000 innocent people. We gather every piece of evidence we can find, he said. We document everything, and then we make sure that Earth knows exactly what happened here and who was responsible. As the Horizon began its detailed survey of the destruction, Jake made a silent promise to his sister. The aliens who had done this believed they were sending a warning to humanity. They thought they were showing humans the price of expansion into space. They were wrong. What they had actually done was show humanity the true face of the enemy. And Jake was certain that when Earth learned what had happened to New Haven, the human response would be swift and terrible. The Zephyrian Collective had wanted to send a message. Soon they would receive humanity's reply. The quantum message from the UES Horizon reached Earth at exactly 1432 Greenwich Standard Time. Admiral Patricia Hayes was in her office at Earth Defense Command when her aide rushed in with the priority communication. She read the message twice before the full meaning hit her. New Haven was gone. Every human being on the planet was dead. Patricia had been a military officer for 30 years. She had seen combat in the asteroid mining wars and the rebellion on Mars, but nothing had prepared her for this. An entire human colony wiped out by aliens who claimed humans were expanding too far into space. She immediately activated the emergency protocols. Within 30 minutes, every senior military commander and government leader on Earth was connected by secure video link. President Catherine Walsh appeared on the main screen from her office in Geneva. Her face was pale but determined. "Ladies and gentlemen," began the president, "we are facing the greatest crisis in human history. Admiral Hayes will brief you on the situation." Patricia stood and activated the holographic display. The image of New Haven's destruction filled the room. Several people gasped when they saw the recordings from the orbital station. The attack was systematic and complete, Patricia explained. The aliens used weapons we have never encountered before. Our intelligence indicates this was carried out by the Zephyrian Collective, a militant species from the Andromeda sector. General Marcus Thompson, head of Human Space Forces, leaned forward in his chair. He was a big man with scars on his face from the Mars campaign. How many ships did they use? Over 50 combat vessels, replied Patricia. But that's not the, worst part. Our analysis shows this was just a small portion of their total fleet. Intelligence estimates they have over 500 warships at their disposal. Dr. Richard Chen, Earth's leading expert on alien psychology, raised his hand. Admiral, did they attempt any communication before the attack? Any demands or warnings? Patricia replayed the alien message. The broken human words sent chills through everyone in the room. Humans expand too far. This is warning. Leave our space or face same fate. The problem is that New Haven was not in their space, said President Walsh. It was in legally claimed human territory, established through proper diplomatic channels. With the Galactic Council, General Thompson's face was red with anger. They murdered 200,000 civilians, including children. This is not a territorial dispute. This is genocide. Dr. Chen shook his head. From their perspective, they are sending a clear message. The Zephyrians believe that shows of force demonstrate strength. They expect us to retreat and abandon our colonies. What if we don't? Asked the president. Then they will attack more colonies, Chen replied. Our intercepted communications suggest they are already planning strikes against 5 more human worlds. The room fell silent. Patricia could see the weight of the decision settling on everyone's shoulders. They were not just talking about military strategy. They were talking about the survival of human civilization in space. What are our options? Asked President Walsh. General Thompson stood up. We have 3 choices. First, we could attempt diplomatic contact and try to negotiate a settlement. Second, we could launch limited military strikes against their forward bases. Third, we could implement what I call proportional retaliation. Explain proportional retaliation, ordered the president. Thompson's voice was grim. They destroyed one of our worlds and killed 200,000 people. We destroy one of their worlds and kill an equivalent number of their people. An eye for an eye. Dr. Chen looked horrified. General, that would make us no better than them. We would be committing genocide ourselves. They started this, Thompson replied. If we show weakness now, they will continue killing our people until we have no colonies left. Patricia activated another display. There is a 4th option. Project Prometheus. The room went completely quiet. Project Prometheus was Earth's most classified military program. Only a handful of people knew it existed. What is Project Prometheus? Asked President Walsh. Patricia took a deep breath. After first contact with hostile aliens 20 years ago, our scientists began developing theoretical weapons for extreme scenarios, weapons that could eliminate an entire star system if necessary. You're talking about stellar manipulation, whispered Dr. Chen, artificially triggering a supernova. The technology exists, confirmed Patricia. Dr. Angela Foster, at Luna Research Station, has been working on stellar compression bombs for the past decade. In theory, we could cause their home star to collapse and explode. General Thompson stared at her. How many aliens live in their home system? Intelligence estimates over 2 billion, Patricia replied. The silence stretched for nearly a minute. Everyone was thinking about the same thing. They were discussing the potential death of 2 billion intelligent beings. President Walsh finally spoke. Are we seriously considering the destruction of an entire species? They are considering the destruction of ours, replied Thompson. Our intelligence shows they have identified 12 human colony worlds for elimination. That represents over 3 million human lives. Dr. Chen leaned back in his chair. There has to be another way. Some form of diplomatic solution. The Zephyrians don't understand diplomacy, said Patricia. Their entire culture is based on conquest and domination. They see mercy as weakness and negotiation as surrender. President Walsh looked around the room at each face on the screens. I need recommendations. From each of you, General Thompson, proportional retaliation using Project Prometheus, Thompson said immediately. We eliminate their home system and send a clear message to every other hostile species in the galaxy. Attack human civilians and face total destruction. Dr. Chen, the high psychologist, shook his head. I recommend we attempt diplomatic contact first. If that fails, limited military strikes against their fleet bases. Genocide should be our absolute last resort. Admiral Hayes? Patricia had been thinking about Commander Morrison and his dead sister. She thought about the children playing in those meadows on New Haven. She thought about the 3 million humans who would die if the Zephyrians continued their expansion. I recommend we prepare Project Prometheus immediately, she said, but we give them one chance to withdraw from human space. If they refuse or attack another colony, we eliminate their home system completely. President Walsh nodded slowly. The indoor decision is too important for me to make alone. I'm calling an emergency session of the United Earth Assembly. Every nation will have a voice in this choice. The meeting ended, but Patricia remained in her office. She activated her personal communicator and contacted Captain Elena Vasquez of the stealth ship UES Shadow. Elena, I have a priority mission for you, she said when the captain's face appeared on screen. Yes, Admiral? I need detailed intelligence on Zephyrian military capabilities and fleet positions. How soon can you reach their territory? Captain Vasquez checked her navigation charts. 72 hours if we push the engines to maximum. Do it, but be careful. We can't afford to lose you or tip them off that we're gathering intelligence. Understood, Admiral. What are we preparing for? Patricia looked out her window at Earth's blue skies and white clouds. Somewhere out there, alien ships were planning to destroy more human worlds. Children were going to die unless someone stopped them. We're preparing for war, Elena, the kind of war that ends civilizations. After the communication ended, Patricia sat alone in her office and thought about what humanity was about to become. For centuries, humans had explored space as peaceful colonists and traders. They had avoided major conflicts with alien species and tried to find diplomatic solutions to problems, but the Zephyrians had changed everything. They had shown that some enemies could not be reasoned with or deterred by anything except superior force. Now humanity had to decide if they were willing to become something they had never been before. The vote in the United Earth Assembly would determine the future of human civilization. Either they would retreat to their home system and abandon space exploration, or they would show the galaxy that humans could be the most dangerous predators in the universe. Patricia already knew which choice she hoped they would make. The United Earth Assembly voted 347 to 23 in favor of Project Prometheus. President Catherine Walsh signed the authorization papers with a heavy heart, knowing she had just approved the potential death of billions of alien beings. But the intelligence, reports from Captain Vasquez had made the choice clear. The Zephyrians were already moving their fleets toward 5 more human colonies. The Titan yards around Saturn became the center of humanity's war preparation. Chief Engineer Paul Martinez had never seen anything like it. Every construction bay was working at maximum capacity, building warships as fast as possible. The massive facility that normally produced 3 ships per month was now launching 1 every 2 days. Paul stood on the observation deck of Station Alpha and watched the UES Retribution take shape in the largest construction bay. The ship was enormous, over 2 kilometers long and armed with weapons that had never been tested in real combat. It would be the flagship of humanity's revenge fleet. She's beautiful, isn't she? Said Captain Susan Blake as she joined Paul at the window. She had been chosen to command the Retribution, and she spent every free moment studying her new ship. Beautiful and terrifying, replied Paul. Those quantum torpedo arrays could destroy a city with a single shot. Susan nodded. She was a veteran of 15 years in the human fleet, but she had never commanded anything like this before. How long until she's ready? 3 more weeks for the main systems, Paul answered. But the special weapons will take longer. Dr. Foster's stellar compression bombs are incredibly complex. Dr. Angela Foster was working 18 hours a day at Luna Research Station. She had spent 10 years developing the theory behind stellar manipulation, never imagining it would actually be used. Now she was racing to build 3 bombs capable of destroying a star. The physics were staggering. Each bomb contained exotic matter that could disrupt the nuclear fusion process inside a star. When deployed correctly, they would cause the star to collapse in on itself and then explode outward in a supernova. The energy release would be visible from thousands of light years away. The calculations have to be perfect, Angela explained to her assistant, Dr. Kevin Brooks. If we get the positioning wrong, the bombs won't work. If we get the timing wrong, our own fleet could be caught in the explosion. Kevin looked at the equations covering every wall of the laboratory. Are you sure this will work, Doctor? Angela paused in her work. The computer simulations show a 94% probability of success, but we've never tested it on an actual star. We're basically conducting the most dangerous experiment in human history. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Commander Chris Parker was deep in Zephyrian space, gathering the intelligence that would make or break the human attack. His small stealth ship had been modified with the latest cloaking technology, making it nearly invisible to alien sensors. Chris had been watching the Zephyrian home system for 2 weeks. What he saw made his blood run cold. The aliens had 3 heavily populated planets orbiting their yellow star. Cities covered entire continents, and orbital stations housed millions more civilians. The total population was even higher than Earth's estimates, nearly 3 billion beings. But the military installations were what worried him most. The Zephyrians had over 800 warships in their home system, with massive shipyards producing new vessels every day. Their technology was advanced, possibly even superior to human weapons in some areas. Chris recorded everything and prepared detailed reports for Earth. The Zephyrians were not just planning to attack more human colonies. They were preparing for total war against humanity. Intelligence intercepts showed they intended to eliminate every human presence in space within 5 years. Back at Earth Defense Command, Admiral Hayes studied Chris's reports with growing concern. The enemy was stronger than they had thought, but it was too late to change course now. The human war fleet was already assembling at the edge of the solar system. 200 warships gathered at the staging area near Pluto. It was the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. Ships from every human world contributed to the fleet. The crews were volunteers, many of them colonists who had lost friends and family to alien attacks over the years. Commander Jake Morrison requested permission to join the fleet. He had been reassigned to Earth for debriefing after the New Haven incident, but he could not stand the thought of staying home while others fought to avenge his sister. Sir, I request assignment to the attack fleet, he told Admiral Hayes during their meeting. Patricia looked at the younger officer with sympathy. Jake, you've been through a terrible trauma. No one expects you to fight in this battle. With respect, Admiral, they killed my family. This is personal for me now. Patricia understood his feelings. She had lost people she cared about in previous conflicts. Very well. You can command Squadron 7, fast attack ships, but I want you to promise me something. Yes, ma'am? Don't let revenge cloud your judgment. We need every good officer we can get, and your sister wouldn't want you to die for her. Jake nodded. I understand, Admiral. I won't take unnecessary risks. But privately, he was not sure he could keep that promise. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the recording of New Haven's destruction. He saw his sister's children being vaporized by alien weapons. The rage inside him was like a burning fire that never went out. Dr. Lisa Carter had also requested assignment to the fleet. Her expertise in alien biology and psychology would be valuable during the attack. She was assigned to the Retribution as scientific advisor to Captain Blake. I still think there might be a way to avoid this, Lisa told Susan as they reviewed the battle plans. If we could establish communication with reasonable Zephyrians, perhaps we could find a peaceful solution. Susan shook her head. The time for peace was before they murdered 200,000 civilians. Now we're past the point of no return. The final preparations were completed in the 3rd week of March. Dr. Foster's stellar compression bombs were loaded onto 3 specially modified stealth ships. The crews of those ships knew they were on a one-way mission. They would have to get close to the Zephyrian star to deploy the bombs, and they probably would not survive the explosion. Captain Elena Vasquez volunteered to lead the bomb deployment mission. She had spent months studying Zephyrian defenses and knew their patterns better than anyone else. "Admiral, the Shadow and her sister ships are ready," she reported to Patricia during the final briefing. "Are your crews prepared for what they're about to do?" Patricia asked. Elena's voice was steady. "We all understand the mission, ma'am. We're going to end this war before it really begins." President Walsh made a final address to the people of Earth and the human colonies. She stood at the podium in the United Earth Assembly and spoke to billions of people watching on screens across human space. "My fellow humans," she began, "we stand at a crossroads in our history. An alien species has declared war on our civilization by murdering innocent colonists. They have shown us that they intend to drive humanity back to Earth and destroy our dream of exploring the stars." She paused and looked directly into the camera. "But they have made a terrible mistake. They have awakened something in humanity that has been sleeping since we first left our home planet. They have awakened our capacity for total war. Our fleet is departing today to deliver humanity's response to this aggression. We go not as conquerors, but as protectors of human civilization. We go to ensure that no other human colony will suffer the fate of New Haven." The president's final words sent chills through everyone who heard them. "To the Zephyrian Collective we say this: you wanted to send us a message. Now you will receive ours. And when your star dies, every species in the galaxy will know the price of making war on humanity." The Great Fleet began its journey towards Zephyrian space, 200 human warships carrying the hopes and fury of an entire species. In the lead ship, Admiral Hayes stood on the bridge and watched the stars ahead. Somewhere in that darkness waited an enemy that had made the greatest mistake in their species' history. They had shown humans what they were capable of. Now humans would show them what they were capable of in return. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zephyr system, like ghosts materializing from the void. 200 warships spread across space in perfect formation, their weapons powered and ready for battle. Admiral Patricia Hayes stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution and stared at the alien homeworld glowing in the distance. "Sensor sweep complete, Admiral," reported the tactical officer. "We count 847 Zephyrian ships in the system. They're moving to intercept us." Patricia nodded. The numbers were almost exactly what intelligence had predicted. The aliens had superior numbers, but humans had something else. They had fury, and they had weapons the Zephyrians had never seen before. "Open a channel to all ships," she ordered. "This is Admiral Hayes. Today we fight not just for revenge, but for the future of human civilization. Every shot you fire, every enemy ship you destroy protects human children who are not yet born. Make your shots count." Captain Susan Blake walked to Patricia's side. The Retribution was the largest ship in the fleet, armed with experimental, quantum torpedoes that could punch through any known armor. "Admiral, the Zephyrians are sending us a transmission." "Put it on screen." The alien commander appeared on the main display. He was tall and thin with gray skin and large black eyes. When he spoke, his voice was harsh and grating. "Human fleet, you have entered sacred Zephyrian space. Your colony was destroyed as warning. You ignored warning. Now you die like all who oppose Zephyrian Collective." Patricia stepped forward. "I am Admiral Patricia Hayes of the United Earth Defense Force. You murdered 200,000 innocent civilians, children, elderly people, farmers who never hurt anyone. Now you face the consequences of awakening human wrath." The alien commander made a sound that might have been laughter. "Humans are weak. You send small fleet against mighty Zephyrian armada. We crush you like insects." "We'll see about that," Patricia replied coldly. The transmission ended. Patricia turned to her bridge crew. "All ships, begin attack pattern Delta. Commander Morrison, take your squadron and hit their outer defenses. Captain Blake, target their command ships with the quantum torpedoes." The battle began with a flash of light that could be seen across half the star system. Human missiles streaked through space toward the alien fleet, while Zephyrian plasma beams reached out to destroy the attacking ships. Commander Jake Morrison led his 12 fast attack ships directly into the heart of the enemy formation. His squadron was outnumbered 10-1, but they were faster and more maneuverable than the heavy Zephyrian cruisers. Phoenix Squadron, this is Morrison. Remember your training and watch each other's backs. We're going to show these aliens what humans can do when we're angry. Jake's ship dove toward a massive Zephyrian battleship, its weapons charging. He thought about his sister Amy and her children as he lined up his shot. The quantum torpedo launched from his ship and struck the alien vessel amidships. The explosion tore the enemy ship in half. That's for New Haven, Jake whispered. Dr. Lisa Carter was monitoring alien communications from her station aboard the Retribution. As the battle raged around them, she listened to Zephyrian commanders trying to coordinate their defense. "Captain Blake," she called out, "I'm detecting confusion in their ranks. They're not used to fighting an enemy with our tactical flexibility." Susan smiled grimly. "Good. That's exactly what we were hoping for." The Retribution's massive guns spoke, sending quantum torpedoes racing toward the largest Zephyrian ships. Each torpedo contained enough energy to level a city. When they struck their targets, entire alien vessels simply vanished in balls of superheated plasma. But the Zephyrians were not helpless. Their plasma cannons were devastatingly effective against human armor. 2 human destroyers were cut in half by concentrated alien fire. A cruiser exploded when its reactor was breached by an enemy missile. "We're losing ships," reported the tactical officer. "The aliens are focusing fire on our smaller vessels." Patricia watched the battle display with growing concern. The human fleet was performing well, but they were still outnumbered more than 4-1. Unless something changed soon, the aliens would overwhelm them through sheer numbers. "Admiral," came a voice over the communication system. "This is Captain Vasquez. The Shadow is in position." Patricia felt her heart race. Captain Elena Vasquez and her 3 stealth ships had been moving through the system for the past 2 hours, carrying Dr. Foster's stellar compression bombs toward the Zephyrian star. If they could deploy the weapons successfully, the battle would be over in minutes. "Proceed with the mission, Elena. We'll keep them busy out here." The stealth ships were invisible to Zephyrian sensors, but they had to get dangerously close to the star to deploy their weapons. Elena watched her navigation display as they approached the corona, the sun's outer atmosphere. The temperature outside her ship was over 1 million degrees. "Deployment in 60 seconds, she announced to her crew. "Remember, we need to place all 3 bombs at precise coordinates. If even one fails, the star won't collapse properly." Her hands were steady on the controls, but Elena knew this was probably her last mission. The bombs had to be placed manually, and the stealth ships would not be able to escape before the star exploded. Meanwhile, the main battle continued to rage. Commander Morrison's squadron had destroyed 8 alien ships, but they had lost 4 of their own. Jake's ship was damaged, its shields failing, but he continued to fight with desperate determination. A Zephyrian cruiser locked onto his ship with its targeting system. Jake saw the alien weapons charging and knew he had seconds to live. Then, a massive explosion lit up space nearby. The UES Retribution had destroyed the enemy ship with a perfectly aimed quantum torpedo. "Thanks for the save, Captain Blake," Jake transmitted. "Don't mention it, Commander, just keep hitting them." Dr. Carter was still monitoring alien communications when she noticed something important. "Captain, the Zephyrian commander is trying to recall ships from their outer systems. They're calling for reinforcements." Susan Blake looked at the tactical display. If more alien ships arrived, the human fleet would be completely outnumbered. "How long before they get here?" 2 hours, maybe 3. That gave them a narrow window. Susan opened a channel to Admiral Hayes. "Admiral, we need to end this battle quickly. The aliens are calling for backup." Patricia understood. "All ships maximum attack, hit them with everything we have." The human fleet surged forward in a coordinated assault. Every weapon fired simultaneously, creating a wall of destruction that tore through the Zephyrian formation. Alien ships exploded in chains of fire as human missiles found their targets. But the aliens fought back with equal fury. They had realized this was not just another battle, but a fight for their species' survival. Zephyrian commanders ordered their ships to ram human vessels if necessary. A damaged alien cruiser accelerated toward the human carrier UES Defiance. The carrier's captain tried to evade, but the ship was too slow. The two vessels collided in a massive explosion that could be seen throughout the system. "We just lost the Defiance," reported the communications officer. "All hands." Patricia closed her eyes for a moment. Over 3,000 human lives had just ended, but she could not let grief stop her now. Too much was at stake. "Shadow to Fleet Command," came Elena's voice over the radio. "Bombs are deployed. All ships clear the area immediately." Patricia felt a mixture of relief and dread. The mission was complete, but now they had to escape before the star died. "All ships, emergency retreat to minimum safe distance, maximum speed." The human fleet began pulling back from the battle, but the Zephyrians pursued them. The alien commander had realized something was wrong and was trying to prevent the human ships from escaping. "They're following us," observed Captain Blake. "Should we stand and fight?" Patricia checked the countdown timer. They had less than 10 minutes before the bombs activated. "No. Our job now is to survive long enough to witness what we've done." As the fleets raced away from the Zephyrian star, Jake Morrison looked back at the alien homeworld. 3 billion beings lived on those planets. In a few minutes, they would all be dead. For the first time since New Haven's destruction, Jake felt a moment of doubt. Was this justice or was it genocide? Then he remembered his sister's children and pushed the doubt away. The aliens had made their choice when they attacked civilians. Now they would face the consequences. The countdown reached 0 at exactly 16:47 ship time. Admiral Patricia Hayes watched from the bridge of the UES Retribution as Dr. Foster's bombs activated deep inside the Zephyrian star. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. The yellow sun continued to shine peacefully, giving life to 3 worlds filled with billions of alien beings. Then the star began to flicker. "Stellar compression has begun," reported Dr. Lisa Carter from her science station. "The bombs are disrupting the fusion process in the core. The star is starting to collapse in on itself." Captain Susan Blake stood beside Patricia, both women transfixed by what they were witnessing. "How long do we have?" "The computer models predict total collapse in 6 hours, Carter replied. "Then the supernova explosion will begin." 6 hours. That was how long 3 billion Zephyrian lives had left. The human fleet had retreated to what they hoped was a safe distance, nearly 2 billion kilometers from the dying star. But even at this range, the explosion would be visible as a second sun in Earth's sky. The energy release would be so powerful that it could destroy planets dozens of light years away. Commander Jake Morrison watched the alien homeworld through his ship's telescopes. He could see the 3 planets still orbiting their sun, unaware that death was racing toward them at the speed of light. Cities sparkled on the night sides of those worlds. Families were probably having dinner. Children were playing. Ordinary. People were living ordinary lives. In 6 hours, all of that would be gone. "Sir," said his communications officer, "we're receiving transmissions from the alien planets. They've detected the stellar instability." Jake hesitated, then nodded. "Put it on speaker." The bridge filled with alien voices. Jake could not understand their language, but he could hear the panic and fear. Zephyrian scientists had realized what was happening to their star. They were broadcasting emergency warnings to their fleet and trying to organize evacuation efforts, but there was nowhere to run. No ship could travel fast enough to escape a supernova. The Zephyrian fleet was trapped in their own system, watching helplessly as their sun prepared to explode. "They're trying to surrender," reported the communications officer. "The alien commander is broadcasting on all frequencies, asking for mercy." Jake felt something twist in his stomach. "What are they saying?" Dr. Carter translated from her console. "They're offering to withdraw from all human space, complete evacuation of any territory near human colonies. They're begging us to stop the star from exploding." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew it was impossible. Once the stellar compression process began, there was no way to reverse it. Dr. Foster's bombs had been designed to ensure complete destruction. Even if they wanted to show mercy, it was too late. Admiral Hayes activated the fleet communication system. This is Admiral Hayes to all ships. I know what some of you are thinking. I know some of you are having doubts about what we've done. Remember why we're here. Remember New Haven. Remember the 200,000 humans who died without warning or mercy. Her voice grew harder. The Zephyrians had a choice. They could have lived in peace with humanity. Instead, they chose to murder our civilians and threaten our children. Now they face the consequences of that choice. Captain Elena Vasquez's voice came over the radio from her dying stealth ship. She and her crew had stayed behind to monitor the bombs, knowing they could not escape in time. Admiral, the compression is accelerating. We estimate 4 hours until total collapse. Elena, can you reach minimum escape velocity? Patricia asked, though she already knew the answer. Negative. Admiral, the Shadow's engines were damaged during deployment. We're going to ride this one out. Patricia closed her eyes. Elena and her crew were heroes who had knowingly sacrificed their lives to complete the mission. They deserved better than to die, alone in the darkness. Elena, you and your people have my eternal gratitude. Your sacrifice will be remembered by every human being for the rest of our history. Just make sure it was worth it, Admiral. Make sure this ends the war. As the hours passed, the situation in the Zephyrian system became increasingly desperate. The alien fleet tried everything they could think of to escape. Some ships attempted to reach hyperspace, but the stellar instability was interfering with their jump drives. Others tried to hide behind the outer planets, hoping the massive worlds would shield them from the explosion. Nothing worked. The laws of physics were absolute, and Dr. Foster's bombs had condemned everything in the system to death. Jake Morrison found himself thinking about his sister Amy. She had been a teacher before she became a farmer on New Haven. She had always believed that education and understanding could solve any problem. She had taught her children to be kind to others, even to people who were different from them. What would Amy think about what humanity was doing now? Would she approve of the total destruction of an entire species? Or would she be horrified at the price of vengeance? Jake would never know the answer. Amy was dead, along with her children and her husband and everyone else who had lived on New Haven. The Zephyrians had made sure of that. Sir, the star is entering final collapse, reported his science officer. All alien broadcasts have stopped. Jake looked at the tactical display. The Zephyrian fleet had gathered near their homeworld, as if they wanted to die close to the place where their species had been born. It was a strangely touching gesture from beings who had shown no mercy to human civilians. The star's collapse accelerated rapidly in the final minutes. The yellow sun that had warmed 3 worlds for billions of years shrank to a point of impossible density. For a brief moment, the entire system was plunged into darkness. Then the supernova began. The explosion was beyond anything humans had ever witnessed. The dying star released more energy in 5 seconds than Sol would produce in its entire 10-billion-year lifetime. Light brighter than 1,000 suns erupted from the stellar core and raced outward at 30,000 kilometers per second. The first planet, closest to the star, was vaporized instantly. The world simply ceased to exist, its atoms scattered across space as glowing plasma. The second planet lasted 3 minutes longer before the expanding shockwave tore it apart. The third world, the Zephyrian homeworld, had time for one final transmission before it died. Dr. Carter translated the last message. They're broadcasting their history, cultural records, scientific discoveries, artistic achievements. They want something of their civilization to survive. Patricia felt an unexpected stab of sorrow. The Zephyrians were monsters who had murdered innocent humans, but they were also a species with 3 billion years of history and culture. In a few moments, all of that would be gone forever. The shockwave reached the homeworld at 1643. The planet's atmosphere ignited, turning the entire world into a ball of fire. Then the surface began to melt and boil away. Within minutes, nothing remained but glowing gas expanding into space. The Zephyrian fleet died with their worlds. Over 800 warships were caught in the explosion, their crews having just enough time to realize what was happening before the superheated plasma consumed them. When it was over, the Zephyr system no longer existed. Where 3 planets had orbited, a yellow star, there was now only an expanding cloud of radioactive gas. The explosion was so bright that it would be visible from Earth in 4 years, when the light finally crossed the vast distance between stars. Admiral Hayes addressed the Fleet one final time. Ladies and gentlemen, the Zephyrian Collective has been eliminated. Their threat to human civilization is ended. We can now return home knowing that no human colony will ever again face the fate of New Haven. But the cost of victory weighed heavily on everyone's minds. Humanity had become something new in the galaxy. They had proven that they possessed the will and the technology to destroy entire star systems. Other alien species would hear about what happened here, and understand that humans were not to be threatened lightly. Commander Morrison set course for Earth, his ship carrying the radiation signatures that proved the Zephyrian star was dead. He thought about his sister one last time, then put his grief aside. Amy and her children had been avenged, but the price had been higher than anyone could have imagined. Humanity had won the war, but they had lost something of their innocence in the process. They were no longer the peaceful explorers who had first ventured into space. They had become the species that could kill suns, and across the galaxy other civilizations were taking note of that fact.